untold stories, touching the human and personal side of our people in politics.
We're not picking up the books, so you might have to just,
music, culture, the media, and more. Getting to know our farmers, our public servants, youth, and the ordinary Dominica. Listen to their stories. No limitations, no restrictions, no holds barred. In the spotlight will also spotlight interesting topics, issues, and relevant situations. Don't miss In the Spotlight on Q95 FM radio every Monday nights from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight.
Good evening, stand by. We're on in the next couple of minutes. Give it a lot. $11 moving down past the 8 o'clock hour. Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's In the Spotlight radio show. It is Monday, the 18th day of September, and we're still in 2023, but oh boy, is it flying by so very, very quickly. It is nice to be here on this beautiful Monday night. And we do have quite an interesting and exciting program for you tonight. We say good evening to you if you're live via Q95 FM radio. And if you tuned in via one of our platforms, then we are excited to have you as well. Okay, so we are on the In the Spotlight radio show's page. We are on the Spotlighters, the group by In the Spotlight, and I see that we're also on my page as well. So we're all set to go for an intriguing interesting, eye-opening, true story tonight. I mean, all stories here. True stories on the program. You know, we get people to come in and share sometimes the most intimate things with us that, you know, they would probably come on and say before, well, but I know I'm not going to talk about that. You're not going to get me to talk about this and the other. But they say I get them so relaxed that before you know it, they're telling me their whole entire life story. But tonight we are here, and my guests, I have two guests here in the studio. I have the author and I have the publisher. And we're really happy to have the both of you in studios. And such a beautiful sight on this live. You all look gorgeous, you all look lovely.
Thank you.
We're truly excited to have you. As to how our emotions are going to change as the show goes along, it's another story altogether. And I had the opportunity to read the Surviving a Narcissist is the name of the book. The author is Octavia Nicholas, and her publisher is Thomas. Esther Thomas. There's another Esther Thomas here. She's married Thomas though. Yes. You're married Thomas as well. Okay, this should be interesting. All right, and you know, tonight's program is important on so many levels. Tonight we're going to understand what it is to know a narcissist, what it is to live with a narcissist, what it is to experience a narcissist. And even from your perspective, Esther, this is your aunt sitting right there, you know, and you had to publish this book, which means you had to read the book. You had to go through various emotions, I'm sure. You had to put on your professional hat at some point in time. But I'm sure at other times, you were the human, the family member. This is my aunt. And we'll talk about all of that as we go through the program tonight. So again, good evening to everyone and welcome to tonight's program. We promise you it will be worth your while to stick around with us for the next hour and 45 minutes. Octavia opened her eyes when I said it's 2 hours, but she'd be surprised that 10 o'clock is going to come. And then she said, all this time already passed. Octavia Nicholas, good evening to you, my dear.
Good evening.
Let me just make sure that I have your correct mic for you. Yes?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, we do. And Esther, let's just do a little mic check.
Good evening.
Okay, so I think I have the 2 correct mics right now. Esther, good evening to you as well.
Good evening.
It is nice to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you
All
for having
right,
me.
wonderful. Octavia, I'm going to allow you to say good evening to everyone who is tuned into the program, those who are right here in Dominica, family, friends, those who are far and tuned in, because I think somebody messaged today to say, I'll be tuned in from the UK.
Great.
You understand? So, and you know what time it is in the UK?
Yes.
But that person said they were going to tune in, which means that they want to hear this story. So an opportunity to say hello to everyone.
So good evening to everyone. Thank you for listening. And for Diana, thank you so much for having me. I am happy to be here to share my experience and my story as well. So we're here to share and to hear from our audience as well.
I have to say, Octavia, someone messaged me about you. It wasn't you who initially messaged me. Somebody messaged me about you and wanted to know if I would be willing to work with you to do a little something here. And I said to the person, well, boy, you know, I have so much going on and so on and so forth. But I spoke to you. I decided, let me at least speak to the person in question. And I'll tell you, there was something about you from the very first time I spoke to you that said, whatever it is, you need to work with her.
That's awesome.
And I'll tell you, it's been a real pleasure. The last few weeks we've been in contact, just getting to know each other, and trying to put things in place. And I mean, you've been nothing but awesome. With everything, even when we were probably supposed to do something today, but we didn't get around to do it. You just said, it's okay. Let's see what happens tomorrow, etc., etc. So, the person that you are, and the personality that you brought forward to me is the same one I met when you came to Dominica, and it drew me to want to work with you. And I'm happy that we're here tonight. To begin this journey of what this book is going to do for those who are tuned in. And I'll tell you this, Octavia, there will be persons listening to this program tonight who are presently experiencing what you wrote about in this book. You're going to have persons who will be tuned in and cry just listening. Granted, we're not going to put the whole cat or pull the whole cat out of the bag, because you have to get the book. But at the same time, we will share enough to get people to understand what you experienced and what you went through. So I'm looking forward to the conversation tonight, and just to let you know that it's a real pleasure. You're an awesome person, and I think that once people hear you tonight, they're going to want to come to our signings, right? Yes. And Esther, I met you today, and I thought, I kept looking at her and I'm saying, you seem so familiar to me. I still have not figured out what it is, but it was a pleasure meeting you as well today. And I think what you've done for your aunt to work with her to get this book published is phenomenal. And I hope that your business continues to flourish, because this story needed to be told.
Definitely.
Let's get to know you ladies first and foremost. So Octavia, où c'est Dominique?
Oui.
Tell us about where you're from.
So my name, Octavia Nicholas, as we've said. I am from Dominica. We've covered that as well. I grew up in the village of Toronto, Castle Rose. That's where I'm from. I actually went to school in Roseau. I was one of the first set of students who went to the Goodwill Secondary School. And right after secondary school, I moved to Antigua, and I've been living there since. So I went to college there, and I live there. It's home, so it's like a second home as well. So I'm now based in Antigua.
How did you get around to moving to Antigua?
Well, it's a long story. I would say
you are right, sir.
Yeah,
proceed.
I don't want to say I was sort of tricked into doing it, but then I was after school. I think my sister-in-law is listening, or she's tuned in. But she was getting married to my brother, and I went to Antigua for the wedding, and that was it. So
you didn't come back?
No, didn't come back. Well, they planned that I would not have, but I was not told, because after school the plan was I would be finished and my dad would buy me a car, I would get a job, so I had big plans for myself, but they made plans otherwise, and I ended up in Antigua. I attended my brother's wedding, and I had other family members there too, because Esther's mom, she was already in Antigua, and she's a big sister and my big brother, so it was family, and I just never really came back. Well, of course, to visit.
Were you mad at them initially?
At first, I was, because then I was told, you're going overseas, and to be honest, it was my first time, traveling. So I was expecting more. So what when you go, you're expecting, the picture I had in my mind was really not what it was. So I was a little, well, I don't know. I preferred home, because things are so different in Antigua as opposed to Dominica. Just simple things like the river and the water and the roads, just simple things. So I sort of miss quite a few aspects of Dominica. But now Antigua is home, and I love it. I'm based there, and my livelihood is now there. So I love Antigua and I love Dominica. So
take us back to the days growing up in Toronto. How much do you remember? What was that childhood like?
Well, I remember quite a lot. I come from a large family. I have, 6 sisters, I think, and 5 brothers. I have like 30-something nieces and nephews. But I remember with my big brother, it was like going to the river. It was like using catapults and shooting birds and sort of roasting them. So I knew how to climb trees. I remember I learned to swim by my brothers just throwing me, in the river, and then you have to try to find your way. So it was a really good childhood experience growing up in Dominica. I remember a lot of, even down to, I think, Hurricane David. I was like 5 years old, and I can still remember everything that happened, during that time. So it was a really nice, exciting childhood.
I'm coming back to you so you can tell me more about your lineage, your parents, your, just family from that point of view. So I'm going to Esther for a few moments while you put those thoughts together, right? Esther, so where are you from in Dominica? Or are you from Dominica?
I am not from Dominica, actually. From the beautiful island of Antigua. My mother, however, is from Dominica.
What part of Dominica?
Categories, deeper.
Oh, your mom is from that area as well.
Toronto, yeah.
Okay, all right. Now you say that Antigua so proudly, yeah? And there's
Definitely,
nothing
yeah.
wrong with it. But we sensitive in Dominica.
Right.
I mean, I love Dominica. I'm
She's
here.
here. She's here. Enjoying every bit of it.
Tell me about yourself, Esther.
All right, so the question that I hate to answer the most is who is Esther? But I will be answering that question tonight. So I consider myself to be someone who has been created to assist persons in life to bring their dreams and aspirations to life. Initially, I fueled that through my audit career in the banking sector, the financial sector. And I remember being there and thinking to myself, am I doing enough? Am I helping enough persons? Am I impacting enough lives? And having spoken, to my superiors time and time again, year after year, I thought to myself, you know what? There comes a point in time in life where you don't just want to push the ticket or to push something on the table, but you want to know that at the end of the day, how am I helping to solve problems or to change lives or to impact nations, etc. And so that's when in 2020, when everybody else was trying to secure a job or buy toilet paper, or water, that I just felt in my spirit that it was time to take that jump, to take that leap, and push myself out of corporate and doing what I'm doing now, which is to help persons across the globe take their message across the globe. And so I consider myself to be one who has a heart for the people, very caring, very loving. As you already know, I'm from the beautiful island of Antigua, where I've lived most of my years. Currently, however, I reside in St. Kitts and Nevis with my husband.
Oh, so you left your beautiful Antigua.
Definitely.
And you went
still home. Still home. I have many homes across the globe.
Well, you know
Still
what?
Caribbean.
You're
Caribbean.
exactly.
Caribbean is home.
You're a Caribbean woman.
I am, by definition.
And currently your business is?
So I own 2 companies, one being Inside and Inside Publishing, and that would have been the company that published Surviving a Narcissist. And I'm also the CEO and founder of EGT Consulting and Business Solutions.
And what is that?
And so that's a company, a consultancy company where we provide entrepreneurial mentorship, strategic and business planning, as well as AML compliance, audits, risk assessments, risk management, everything centered around the aspects of business, how to optimize your operations, policy development, policy review, etc.
All right, wonderful. Octavia, how proud are you of this young lady?
Extremely proud. But what she didn't say, she didn't add the handle to her name, so she's actually Dr. Esther J. Thomas.
So she's one of those, eh? There
Yes,
are some
yes,
people,
she downplays
for them,
it,
it matters, and for others, it's okay. It doesn't really
Extremely,
matter.
extremely proud of her for what she's doing at her, at her age.
And your doctor is a PhD?
It's in Christian ministry.
It's in Christian ministry. Wonderful. Very well spoken to, by the way, Octavia.
Yes,
You should be
yes.
very proud of
I
her.
am extremely.
Yes,
extremely.
wonderful. Yes. Back to you, Octavia. So, you remember growing up in Toronto, catapulting, killing birds, and doing all of that good stuff. You said you left Dominica at the secondary school level. Tell us about your educational journey.
Okay, so once I left, I attended the Antigua State College in Antigua, and I studied business there. And from there, I went straight into the world of work. So I went into the hotel industry. So I worked in the hotel industry, the tourism industry for 14 years. Yes, so I did that. And from that, I now own my own business, right? I own a spa. So I'm operating that now, doing that. And now the author of Surviving the Narcissist.
So you guys know what's going to happen anytime I go to Antigua, right?
Of course.
Because they have this What was it like getting yourself settled in a place like Antigua? You mentioned the water before. And I really want to ask this, by the way, as we speak about the water. You know, we hear people talk a lot about Antigua does not have water. What's the reality around the water situation in Antigua? And probably Esther will answer me.
I don't think I'm the appropriate candidate to answer that question. It has been a matter that has been ongoing for many, many years. And I think it's a case where the different administrations need to put their heads together to figure out the situation.
Okay.
Because it's really affecting our country, it's affecting our people, especially because tourism is our biggest industry.
Mm-hmm.
But as I do not live in Antigua currently, I cannot speak to it much. However, you may probably be the best person.
No, I mean, we do have water. We have 365 beaches. So
Yes.
It's not like there is no water in
So the
Antigua.
water has to be desalinated?
It's just the freshwater
Let's go through a
aspect of it
process.
and getting it into the homes and it being consistently in the home. So just like we got here and there was this power outages, frequent power outages. So that sort of happens with the water situation. So sometimes, for days, maybe the homes may not have, water for days, just like what's happening here in terms of the
electricity.
Yeah.
But that is critical to a business like yours, though. Water. How does that work out?
No, well, with I think people make provision knowing what the situation is. So most persons would have, they build with their cisterns, etc., and tanks, and they make provision for that. So even in my business, it doesn't really, affect me. At home, you have a cistern, so it doesn't really affect me as well. So it doesn't affect a lot of people, but a good majority does.
Tell me about, before we went to the break, we wanted to learn a little bit more about family. So tell me more about family in Dominica in particular.
So my grandma is Carib, so she's from the Carib territory. And my grandfather, I think he was French. So he was French, a black Frenchman. And I think the two of them, came together. They had 9 children. And out of 9 children, I think they ended up with almost 100 and something, like grand, and I have it all, and great grands, etc. So it's a huge family.
So that's book number 2. Because imagine the stories. If one chapter has to be dedicated to, oh my goodness,
yes,
imagine
it's a very large family, and I don't know, how they met, how they ended up in Toronto, Castlebrooke, but that's where we were raised.
What about your siblings? Do you have siblings? And
yes, I have 6 sisters and 5 brothers. My parents weren't married, so I have on both, either side of my family.
Okay.
I still have, I think I have 2 siblings here in Antigua.
In Dominica.
In Dominica, sorry. I think I have quite a few in Antigua and in other parts of the world, in New York and Trinidad. So we're scattered.
Okay. Are you able to stay in touch though?
Of course, yes. We have family groups, we keep in touch, we try to visit, when we can.
All right, wonderful. Octavia, why are we here tonight? Why are we doing this tonight?
Okay, so this for me, we're here to share. And this is not really about the main reason is not about a book signing. So I'm not just in Dominica to have a book signing. I am on a mission, to share and to give hope. The title of the book is called Surviving a Narcissist. And what I did is I took the time to share my personal story because there's so many people, as you said earlier, who may be in the same situation. There's some who are looking for a way out, and there's some who have, survived, but they weren't able to talk about it, and maybe they're still hurting based on what they went through. And a lot of people seem to hide and not want to tell because we seem to be private, and we don't want to tell our story because we think of the impact it may have, what people will say, how we're going to feel about it, and it can affect certain aspects of your life. And we live in a very small society as well. So we tend to be quiet because we don't want the neighbor to know what's going on with us, and people suffer in silence. So for me, this is all about breaking the silence on domestic violence and abuse as well. So this is the main reason for this. This is about sharing, so we can offer hope, that we can offer light, and we can break the silence on narcissism and abuse to let people know that we need to stand up. It's not okay. Narcissism is a whole topic on its own that can affect people in so many different ways. And for me, I think I survived. What I went through had to deal with a narcissist as well. So I'm just here to share light and to bring hope and hope that someone can get healing from my process and experience.
Society would probably say you're supposed to be ashamed. You're supposed to hide. Is that how you felt at some point through this entire process? Did you ever feel that way?
Yes, because as I said, Antigua is even much smaller than Dominica is. So maybe something can happen in Roseau, and if you may be in the countryside, and if you don't turn on your TV, you may not know of it unless someone who goes from Roseau to, but Antigua is small, so everybody knows everybody knows everything. So for me, I took time to think about it because I said, boy, it's a very small society. People can be, we are very judgmental as people. So something happens, and instead of maybe thinking of being sympathetic and encouraging, what we do is we get very judgmental. So we look for all the negatives as to why someone would do something, as opposed to thinking of the positive. So for me, that was a major, factor. What will, people say? So I did have that thought, what will people think of me? Would it, would people look at me in a different light? So I had to think about that. I had to think about maybe how would it affect my family, my business, So all of those I took into consideration, and I decided, I meet so many people every day, and people tell their story of what they go through. So people are private, so they will talk to a friend. In my line of work, being an esthetician, I see so many people, and sometimes people share, women share what they're going through. And I thought it's fitting as well for me to share, because sometimes people have their own perception of us. I may look at you, Fidina, and I see you. I don't know the depth of what happens with Fidina, but from what I've seen, I say, oh, she's such a sweet lady, you're so accommodating, and that smile, you're so warm, but there may be so much going on with you that I really don't know, because we tend to mask things, pretty well. We know how to do that. So I decided to share. And if I share, I say it will help someone else to get hope, someone to want to get out of what they're in as well. Sometimes somebody say, well, if she can do that, I can. So basically that's the whole, idea of me trying to share.
Considering your line of work and your previous line of work as well, I would presume that you were somebody who was generally well known within your society and your community.
Yes, very.
Is that does that apply to the narcissist in question as well? Was that person
Yes,
generally well
both
known?
of us here, well known, and as I said, it's a pretty small community as well, so everybody knows, everybody.
So
and then if someone knows you, then they're going to, once you put something out, then the wheels will start turning, and you're going to piece things together. And then after you've read the book, then you will say, okay, well, that's,
And my reason for asking that, it would be to find out, because of that reality, both parties involved, would it make it different in terms of how people react to it, to the story, to the situation, even before the story, as opposed to maybe two people from the countryside who, are not known, people are not well known, does that make it different?
Yes, it does. It makes a difference. It makes a difference telling your story. It makes a difference trying to get help for your situation. It makes a difference, in you trying to, to reach people as well. Because people, sometimes we want to listen to what we want to listen to. We want to know what we want to know. So sometimes we don't want to necessarily hear the truth and know what it is. And because we think, okay, it's going to change our relationship with with individuals, and sometimes it doesn't have to, though. It just means sometimes that we need to encourage people to maybe to do better if they can. So like in my situation, I'm not really telling my story, as I say, to expose any particular person.
Yes.
So that's not the goal at all. The goal is to.
So we're not going to focus on a person per se
exactly
tonight.
So it's about telling a story of how I was affected. So it's my story as to how I was affected, how my situation affected me, and how it can help someone else.
You did this in Antigua already. So you had a book launch and all of that good stuff.
Yes.
Can you share with us what the reaction was like when you launched this book in Antigua, considering the other things that we've already spoken about?
Yes. So when I, put this out, when the trailer came out, for the book cover was out, it sparked quite a bit of interest. Because it's a topic that, people are very interested in. Because the word narcissist and narcissism has been, for the past, let's say, year or two or so, it's been a topic that's been spoken about quite a lot. And to be honest, sometimes people use the word very loosely, and we go around diagnosing everybody as a narcissist because it was a new word that was out and everybody was just excited about, the narcissism. So it's when I put this out, there was quite a bit of it sparked quite a bit of interest. So when I did the launch, people really came out and supported, the launch. It was a really dynamic session because people came out, they were educated, they were entertained, the emotions were very high based on what it is, because I have really taken the time to tell my story and to expose, myself, so people can get to understand actually what I went through.
Did you meet your objective? Did you meet the objective?
I would say
because for you it's telling your story and sharing and teaching almost to some extent.
Yes. So I would say I have, because since then so many there are few churches have asked me to come and give talks on abuse and narcissism. I've gotten so many phone calls, messages from people just saying, if nothing else, but just thank you. Thank you for doing this for us. Thank you for being a voice that I never had. And then people as well just coming out and saying, this is my story. I actually went through something similar. Thanks for being brave. So it's been tremendous. The response has been really good. Of course, you will have some negatives here and there because again, we all process things quite differently. And we're all in a different space mentally as well. So we process things differently. So of course there are a bit of negatives out there because people want to know what your motive is for doing what you did. And especially if, as you say, the person's in question, you would know who they are because it's a small society, then people want to tend to kick sides without understanding the real reason behind you doing what you're doing. So
And you decided to bring this to Dominica. Why?
Because this is something, abuse on a whole. So just remove narcissism out of it altogether, but just domestic violence and abuse is something that's prevalent in the Caribbean on a whole. So it's not just unique to Antigua, it's not unique to just Dominica, but it's the Caribbean on a whole. So for me, this is now the start of a book tour to go to the various Caribbean islands and, you know, share the story and to bring light and to raise awareness on domestic violence and abuse, because I think too many women suffer and we take it so lightly, you know. And you hear other women talk about it, and you say, she, her man beat her last night, and this happened, and we talk about it so casually, like it's just okay. But for me, I am here to let people know that it is not okay. And I am quite lucky because, or maybe not lucky, but I am blessed, I would say, because I'm here now sitting with you telling my story. Do you know how many women, Ferdinand, who did not make it to that point?
Yes.
There's quite a lot of women who lost their lives. They did not make it to that point because of domestic violence and abuse. So it's time to say no to that. It's time to raise awareness. It's time to, take someone with you, get them to understand that, you're worth more than this. We don't need this. And also to educate and sensitize our men as well. Loving someone does not entail that. If you love someone, you want to protect them. You don't want to hurt them. And to actually physically put your hand on someone, to use verbally abuse someone, that has nothing to do with love at all. So that's a huge thing.
I refer back to a comment that you just made. You said you are here tonight and you are able to be here to tell your story. There are women, as you mentioned, who would have gone through and they're not here.
Yes.
They've gone. Did it get to a point, Octavia, where you felt that there could be a possibility that you would not be here tonight?
Yes, it got. So my situation was very intense. So it entailed physical abuse, it entailed, verbal abuse, it entailed emotional abuse. And in my book, every chapter of the book begins with a poem, and what the poem does, it sort of shed light on what I've been through before we actually went into things in the chapters of the book. And one of the poems in the book is called I Survived, and that explained, my encounter and what I went through. If you would allow me, I
was just about to say, can we start off with that?
Yes, I can read that poem for you so people can have an understanding as to what I really went through, and that would really answer your question as well. So it says, I survived. I felt your hand against my face, hard enough to make my ear ring, of fright and fear and disbelief. You slammed my head against the wall. I can't explain how it did not fall. Lying helpless, you placed your knees on my arms, the arms which held you and our child. You placed your hands around my neck until I almost lost my breath. You looked me in the eyes and said, I can kill you and explain your death. I stared at the pistol you pointed towards me, demanding answers and my plan when I leave. I begged for your mercy. I was riddled with fear, hoping my life would be spared. You hurt me beyond words can describe, not for any wrong that I had done, all for your selfish gain and gripe. So, Ferdinand, this really explains, in a nutshell, what I went through in terms of the physical abuse, aspect of it. And if you read through, then you can see that maybe I could not have been here. Things had just gone, a little different as well.
Because I picked up from that some kind of physical interaction when you refer to your ears ringing.
Yes, it slammed, your head against the wall.
Against the wall. So you have that. We hear about a pistol in there, which means there was some kind of gun.
Yes.
involved in this. And of course, there's more details on this in the book.
Right.
Some of it we're not going to go into too much detail in that. But if you can, as much as you're able to share, take us back to that particular day in question.
So actually, let me just give you, if I can maybe just give the story in a nutshell, then
Yes.
Without maybe going too
deep in detail
into things.
Yes.
So you're in a relationship, or I was in a relationship, and it was not it was not going well, and so the emotional abuse, the verbal abuse, just so many aspects of it, and then you decide I want to break free from that. I want to move on, and that too, it took quite a while, and that is also another whole aspect of it, which is explained in the book as well, because it took quite a while to break free. And maybe people who are in this situation and people who have gone through will understand as well, because sometimes for Diana, for me, I was in an 18-year relationship.
18 years.
Yes. And then people would say sometimes, well, why did you stay? Why didn't you leave before? And this is one of the things I say to people, we have to be patient and understand that everybody is not in the same place, mentally. We process things quite differently. And in a case of having someone who's a narcissist, they really, really deal with the emotional aspect of things. So basically they try to conquer your mind, and then when they do that, it makes things much easier. So one may say, well, why didn't you leave before, etc.? Why did you stay? But sometimes
I would like to know too.
You know that there are things happening that it's not what it's supposed to be. In your mind, you want to break free. There is another poem that's called "It's Time" as well, which explains. You just get to the point where you decide, that things are happening, I need to go. But how you break free as well is something else. So it's not that sometimes people don't want to leave. It's not that they're not thinking that what's happening to me is not, it's not right. But there's so many aspects that can determine if you leave or not. Like in my situation, things would happen, and then the individual would come back and say, well, give me another chance, we can make it work, I am sorry, you made me do it. Another aspect of the book is as well that says if only. So sometimes a narcissist make you think, well, things can be better if you do something differently. So you made me, yes, so you're blamed through it. So basically you made me do it. So in my case, back to the story now, so I decided that I'm leaving, and it got very violent. So this, what I just read, is what happened on the last night of me being in the home, of deciding that I would want to leave. So it got very graphic in terms of the physical abuse aspect of it. So that actually happened, and you would think the next thing to do would be to seek help. So then I went to to get help. You would have gone through through law enforcement, and there too I got a great pushback, because again, it's a small society. People know people. So before I actually got to make my report, when I got there, I was told, if I get here to make this report, that this is a lie, because the firearm in question was with someone else, someone in high authority. So after this happened, and
so you're lying.
Yes. So after this happened, and law enforcement was sort of dragging their feet, I had to go through gender affairs, and from gender affairs they helped me to go through the family court, and I was able there to obtain a restraining order. And after I got that, things went on. The narcissist actually went to another court to file a criminal matter against me, to say that I'm now lying and everything that I've said is not the truth, and I'm trying to tarnish their reputation.
Oh.
So that was done, and I will tell you, for Diana, that I was victimized twice, because I was found guilty
You were found guilty.
I was found, guilty.
Wait. Let us understand. What were you found guilty of?
That I was lying to the court. I was trying to tarnish someone else's reputation, although everything was right there. Evidence was, everything was laid out, So while I got a restraining order from one court, and one court said, well, this is it, we're granting you this, we think you're in danger, we're granting you this. Another court find it fit to say that no, we find that what you're saying.
So which court?
Is basically untrue. So then I had to take it further. So I didn't leave it there. I had to take it now to to the Court of Appeal to appeal that matter. And then when it was appealed, 3 judges heard the matter and they decided that.
You mean that far?
So 3 judges heard and they threw out the first ruling altogether and said this should have never been done, this should have never been heard. And all of this happened I had to be back and forth almost 2 years in court, back and forth to try to get my justice. So after I was victimized one way by, the narcissist, then I was victimized a second time by the system. And that's why in the book as well, we have a part of the book, that says justice and peace. That's a chapter which explains all of, all of that and what I went through. So for me, part of sharing as well, again for Dinah, because it happens. I thought about it, and what really did my heart was that I said, I had a good team who was working with me, and it was so difficult. What about the people who did not have the resources that I had? I had a good family support. I had, a good, legal team and people who were able to advise me properly. But what about the people who do not have that support system? So I think that quite a bit of people would have suffered, and that is part of the reason I am here, to share this story and to tell people you can overcome, but you have to, because there's so many times I came close to just giving up, leaving things alone. And then in my mind, I'm like, but if I leave it alone, this will never end for you, because it's a win for the narcissist, and then your life will become a living hell after, because, I'm untouchable now. So I have to really literally fight for, for my health and for my freedom.
A couple of things here, Octavia. So you were already being victimized. You were a victim of a narcissistic situation. You go to court to get protection for yourself. That is already an emotional battle that you're fighting. I always say that, I don't like court business. That raises my pressure. I don't like those things. Then you're coming and you now have to deal with a court situation where you then found guilty by a court that is supposed to serve and protect you.
Yes.
Because someone that you brought all your evidence and you're saying, this is what is happening to me. Here is the proof. And you're saying to me, Mati.
Although it's black and white in front of you.
What was that like for you emotionally?
And that's what I said to you. It was heart-wrenching, and there's so many times I just wanted to give up, because at that point it was like, maybe I should just leave it at that. I can't even explain to you how it feels, because it's almost sometimes you feel, well, what do I do? My back is against the wall. You feel alone. You feel like you were defeated. You feel like there is really almost like there is no hope. Why am I doing this? Because as you say, the persons who are supposed to, who swear to serve and protect, in that case, they weren't really, protecting. So it went, things went really, really deep for me, for Dinah.
And it wasn't on one occasion that the court failed you.
It was on that, yes, just one occasion. Actually, there was the family court who was very instrumental through gender affairs, and they did what they were supposed to do. But then it was the narcissist actually went to another court. So while the matter is going on at the family court, he went and filed something else at another court that was going on, almost at the same time. which is something maybe that, as they said when they did the reading, was not supposed to happen, you know, in the first place. But again, you know, it goes deep, and people, if you're going through, you have to fight. You really have to fight. You have to fight. And in the book, at the end of every chapter, we have what I call thoughts, tips, and affirmations, and
yes.
We give you tips on, you know, what to do while you're in that particular situation.
I like the questions as well that you ask.
Right, so
Within
these are the
the
thoughts.
book, yes.
Yeah, so it will provoke your thoughts as to give you, you know, ask yourself a question: where am I, and what am I doing? And then we give you some tips as well. You know, so do you have this? You know, for instance, in the chapter with the justice and peace, it would be like, do you have a good support system? Do you have a good legal team? You know, just things along that line we tell you to, you know, to look for, so you can help to overcome. So the book is not just about telling a story, but it's also offering you tips and, you know, things that you can do if you're actually in the situation.
I particularly like that. I'm coming back to you in a while, and just to give you a sense of what we're going to talk about. You mentioned gender affairs. You had to go through the gender affairs, and you got support there. You mentioned family, you mentioned friends. I would like to know, along this journey, were people there for you? Were friends and family there for you, or did some fall by the wayside? So I'm coming back to you. So Esther, we're here today, and your aunt looks beautiful, and you know, you can see that she, well, I guess in the book we'll know whether or not she got freed from that situation and how. She may give us a little hint, but of course we want you to get the book as well. But Esther, when you got that, you got word from your aunt, what was the conversation like? What did she call you to say to you regarding this book and this situation?
Well, she reached out and she indicated that she wanted to share her story. At that point in time, I wasn't necessarily au fait with the content in its entirety of what that story was about. But of course, because I am dedicated to serving persons so that they can share their story, so that other persons can benefit from, you know, what they're going through or have gone through, I said, yes, I'd love to hear what that story is about. And even at that point in time, when she was articulating it to me, it still wasn't 100% of what you're going to read when you purchase Surviving a Narcissist.
Pause a moment.
Sure.
You said you were not okay with it.
Okay. Right. So I was not necessarily aware of
okay.
Yes.
Yes. I thought you said okay.
Oh no, okay.
Yes. So you were not aware
of all of what was happening.
You knew probably a bit.
A little bit, because it's a small society, people speak. Of course, all of what they're saying may not have been necessarily true, right? And sometimes it's only when you converse with the persons in question, you totally understand, you know, the origin of the situation, the root of the situation, and how things stem from there. So when the manuscript was submitted to us, a critical part of our publishing process is something called manuscript assessment and review. That's where, before we start editing, before we start proofreading or anything of that nature, we go through that manuscript and we begin to look at tone, we look at chapter title suitability, we read to understand whether or not the author is really at a place where they're ready to speak about what they're writing, especially when it is personal, especially when it forces them to be in a vulnerable position. And at that point in time, I had to constantly remind myself that, Esther, you should be operating in a professional capacity here as a publisher. And it was a bit challenging because at the end of the day, this is your family, right? And you wouldn't want to necessarily know that someone in your family is going through that particular situation. And I remember when we met to discuss the contents, the first question I had to ask, because what I want persons to understand is that when you're publishing, it's more than just the book, it's more than just signing the contract, but you have to now begin to extend grace to the individual, especially because what they're putting out there has the power and the potential to either build or break them. And so one of the questions I asked is, well, how did you survive this? Like, how did you last? But in the same breath, I also had to ask the question, are you sure you're ready to speak about this?
And you got the affirmative.
I got the affirmative later on. Because going through the manuscript, I realized that she had a heart to tell the story, but she wasn't telling 100% of the story. And that's when I said to her, okay, so if we're going to tell this story, we have to understand that this book is going to be available to persons who are going through this situation right now and are wondering to themselves, is anybody else going through this? Is this something that is unique to me? How on God's earth do I get myself out of this situation? You also have those persons who have gone through the situation and they're in the healing process, but it's like, okay, healing is taking forever. Will they ever, have that rainbow? Will they ever have hope coming out of this situation? And I said to her, what's going to make this book bless persons? Make this book refer it to other persons? What's going to allow persons to realize that, hey, what I'm going through is not confined to me, but if I'm realizing that there's another woman, another man who has gone through this situation and they've made it out of it, it means that there's hope for me to do so. I told her it means that we have to get to the place where you accept what has happened, you forgive yourself, for what has happened to you, forgive yourself for allowing it to happen to you, the party in question, and then get to the place where you say, I am ready to release it. Because one of the things I reminded her is that when you're writing, think about this. When you're disposing of your garbage, when it's garbage day, do you stand to see which garbage collector is going to pick it up, and based on that person you determine whether you're going to dispose of your trash? No, you dispose of it because it is trash. And so because it's your past, it doesn't define who you are today, right? It doesn't dictate what your future is going to be like. Your past is your past. The only thing we can do is to learn from it. And I think after we have had that discussion, it kind of opened up her mind to understand, hey, if I'm gonna tell my story, I'm gonna tell all of it and not be ashamed of it. And we saw now where the manuscript took a turn, and we're saying, hey, we don't just want to tell the story, but we want to provide help. We want to provide solutions to the problems that people are facing.
Hence the thoughts and the
thoughts, tips, and applications.
Yeah. She's good, by the way.
Yeah,
she's good. She's good.
That's why she's the publisher.
Octavia, do you remember these conversations? And what would be going through your mind at that time? Were you at any point having second thoughts? Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. When certain things were asked of you, when certain things were said to you, are you willing to just put out all the garbage until you're back? That kind of thing. What was going through your mind? What were you thinking?
Yeah, so I'm thinking, I really want to tell this story to help, but you're like, well, and on the other hand, as I said earlier, for me, it wasn't about exposing someone else. And because it's my story, but there's so many other people who are involved in that story,
yes,
I wanted to be a bit mindful as to how I put things out there. Because you're thinking, well, I really did not want to offend anyone. You don't want people to think that, you just didn't want to mash too many corns along the way. So I was thinking about that while I'm thinking, yeah, but you need to tell. So what happened is when we at particular chapters, and she goes through and she's reading and she's like, no, it's like a whole, there is a whole piece of the puzzle missing here. And I'm like, did she have to notice that? Because I really didn't want to put that in. I'm thinking, so sometimes I said, well, maybe I could maybe do it that way instead as opposed to that. And then she would say, well, what you're saying here really doesn't add up. It's like we took a jump from point A all the way to, to G. How did we get from A to G? You need to explain it to me. You need to take your, your readers through what you're going through. So we had quite a bit of that. I'm like, okay, I said, that's when I knew she really knew what she was doing, because you're like, okay, she really knows, because then she can tell that there is a piece of the, the puzzle missing. So she didn't just leave it up to me. And I think as publishers, as a publisher, it's someone's story, so you allow them to tell your story. So maybe she could speak on that, because I'm not sure if it's because we had that relationship that she was able to, to tell me and pull things, out of me. But it was a good thing that she was able to see that I'm struggling and help me, or give me a nudge to let it out, have this pep talk to say, well, think of why you're doing it. think of how you want it to help. If you leave out, that piece of the puzzle, then is it going to be as effective as you would love it to be, as you would want it to be? Will people get, all the information that they need, to get the necessary help and healing that they can from your book? So she was able to pull all of that, out of me, so I could put more of the information out. But it wasn't by any means easy.
Esther, it's an important point that she's making. So, were you wearing the hat of a publisher, or two hats? The publisher, but this is my aunt, this is family. When you gave her the pep talks and some of the things that you said to her, is that a normal conversation that you would have with a regular client?
Yes, it's a mandatory step, especially in our publishing consultation. So even before we get to the story, even before we look at the contract, the terms, etc., one of the things we do as part of our book publishing consultation is to focus on two things, particularly the message of your book and the business of your book. And we look at the message because essentially that's the one thing that's going to remain, right? And so we want to know, why are you writing this story? Who is your target audience? What is the objective you're hoping to achieve? And based on that objective, what are the goals linked to the objective? Because at the end of the day, anybody can tell a story, but if that story is going to be impactful, if that story is going to change the trajectory of people's lives, if that story is going to challenge persons to move from where they're at to where they need to be, if that story is one that's going to challenge you, it means that it has to be told well, right? And one of the things you can tell is when a story is inconsistent, or when somebody's unclear about their message. And as part of our editing process, we don't just go in and make structural or developmental changes, like editing, copy editing, without understanding the message, because that must be done in line with the message of your book. And then once we understand the message, that's when we go into the business of the book, because essentially some persons, they publish just because it's a tick off your bucket list. But we want to go deeper to understand, based on the message, what is the business associated with that message? Are you hoping to host conferences, workshops? Is this a publication that you're hoping to indoctrinate into the educational curriculum? Is this something where you're hoping to have a podcast, a talk show? So we have to begin to think along those lines, because I like to tell persons, your book is not just a material with some pages in it, right? Your book is a company. And so we delve and begin to establish a strong foundation, so that when we begin building, it's something that's sure, it's something that is well established, and it's something that has its future in mind. So before we even think about, okay, what package will be good for you, or how soon do you want to get your book published, that's a conversation that we must have, and we make no decisions, we take no further action until we sit with you. Because when we then go into your manuscript and begin to dissect line by line, paragraph by paragraph, page by page, I can then tell, okay, based on the message, this is not a line. And it's not a line because there's something happening with the author behind the book. And then that's where we go a step further to begin to engage the author to find out what are some of those contributing factors, that's hindering you from really telling the true story or putting your best foot forward in the manuscript.
We make reference to a true story. What evidence did you have that Octavia was telling the truth about this story that made you decide we're going to publish this?
One, the struggle she had in telling the story. Two, the constant conversations about, I'm not sure, I'm not sure, I'm not sure. Three, the objective and the message. Outside of the story, there was a message that she thought would have been so impactful, not just to women. Because if it's a case where, she wanted to be vindictive, it could have been a case where she's saying, this is going to be for women, because we're strong and we're this. And it wasn't about impacting women. It was about impacting lives and generations and changing the narrative in our community, especially in the Caribbean diaspora. And so that's when I understood that, hey, this is more than even just a story, but this is a revolution, because many persons normally see a topic of this nature, something that you don't speak about, right? You don't let persons know that you go through these things. You keep your mouth shut. But if we keep our mouth shut and we remain silent, how do we expect to effect change? And so when she came to me and she began to speak and we listened, because that's a critical factor, we listened, I realized that this is a true story and it needs to be heard. And the story was not about getting back at a person. It wasn't about letting them see, oh, I survived, take that. It wasn't about that. It wasn't about even the individual who inflicted the pain, but it was about the fact that I went through this. These are the steps that I took, one, to accept that I went through it. These are the steps that I took to get out of the situation, and these are the steps that I'm maintaining to maintain my peace, having survived the situation. And that's when we know that this was a true story and it needed to be heard across the globe.
This is powerful stuff, Octavia. Listening to her though, what goes through your mind right now?
You know, it an aspect of it that I can share as well. And while I was writing the book, it was also a healing for me as well. So it actually helped me to heal, and part of it is basically what she's explaining. So the way you were able to have the conversations, the way they got you to speak about things that you were very uncomfortable with, because it's almost like you were reliving things all over again. And sometimes I didn't want to go there. Sometimes it's like I'm trying to put this behind me, and so there are times even in writing that I'm not doing this today because I really don't want to be in that space at that particular time. So for days, you would do nothing because you don't want to get in a particular space, because when you get there and you're writing and you're going over that particular thing over again, the emotions come back and you feel a bit overwhelmed. But that was, part of the healing process, as well. And it was almost like a little therapy, session as well, because then, you're being asked questions that you're forced to answer that even, help you to realize, certain things that you hadn't even thought about. So even on the surface where I think, yes, I'm telling this story, I need to tell this story because it's something that people need, to know. But it's only when you're in it, and I was in the process, and you're actually going through it based on the questions that you're being asked, what you're being told, and what you're saying, what's coming from you, all the way from the inside and the emotion. That was a part of the healing process as well for me.
This is just quite a bit, even having you tonight kind of revisit the situation, relive the situation. I just want to ask you how you're doing now. If you're good, if you're okay.
I'm good. But when you've gone through something of that magnitude, I would say that I can't say that maybe I'm 100% healed, because it's never just all the way behind you. Certain things are still in your mind, constantly there with you, even though you've gotten sort of like your freedom in a sense. But it really gets you sometimes every time you talk about it, and even when you are able to tell other people based on their emotions and how they're receiving it as well. So sometimes you still feel a little sad that you had to go through, but then it brings a level of joy and satisfaction that I'm actually using my situation to bring light and hope to someone else. So that's how I feel right now. A little, emotional, but still feel a bit, joyful in the sense that I'm sharing, and there are people watching. I'm not sure how many people are, but I'm sure there are quite a bit
quite a few people watching
and
listening.
And
it's a radio station
exactly,
too.
as well.
Yes.
So I'm happy for that, and I'm happy. I feel now for Dinah like I'm actually fulfilling part of my purpose. Because I think we all have, a purpose. And just to share with you, I really wanted to sort of study sociology. I wanted to be a social worker. I wanted to be a counselor. And I never really went and pursued any of that.
It's not too late.
And now I see like all of this, is coming back full circle. So it's like almost a nudge that this is something that you need to do. Or it's almost like this was my purpose and you can't run away from it. So it's really coming right back to you where you have to fulfill your purpose. And again, that's the reason why I am doing this, just to be able to, to help people, to enlighten women, because as women, we have so much to offer. We are powerful, beautiful, beings who have so much to give as women. And if we understand, our own power, then that is, you know, the first step to us, you know, understanding who we are and healing and walking in that power. Because without women, you know, so many things would not exist. If we really have to sit and think about it, this can be an entire topic, you know, on its own, just talking about women and who we are as women. And just to sometimes get people, if we could, everybody just take some time when you have a little time and just look up who's the woman, what's the woman, what are we created for, what do we bring to the, you know, this is this question that everybody seems to ask now, like as they ask women or men, or even in the business, wherever, what do you bring to the table? You know, that's a new thing. Just like narcissism was a thing, you know, then where everybody spoke about it, that's the new thing, where we keep asking people, what do you bring to the table? So as a woman, it's very essential for you to understand that just bringing your own femininity into it, that is a lot in itself. And if you have to dive into that, you understand the importance of being a woman and how powerful you are. So then we can't let things like this keep us down. We have to rise above that. And that is where, you know, the story is. That's what I'm here to share. We're more than that. We can't accept verbal abuse and emotional abuse. And that is also crippling the purpose of women. Because when you beat women down, when you verbally abuse them, when you emotionally abuse them, we can't function the way that we are supposed to function, you know, as women. So that's really crippling our purpose altogether. So, you know, you see so many aspects of it, you know, right, all in this.
And I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you and I'm looking at you and I'm getting emotional because I'm saying she went through this for 18 years, but look at her beautiful face, smiling here with us tonight and sharing. You know, this is definitely a survivor. And, you know, I'm thinking, as you're speaking, I'm thinking of other women who are out there who are probably going through this and, you know, are thinking, how do I break through? And at some point, Octavia, we need to ask you the question, how did you survive? How did you break through? Because the title of your book is Surviving a Narcissist. And that brings me to, what is a narcissist? How do you define a narcissist?
So a narcissist is someone who has an excessive admiration, you know, for themselves. And we have what is called narcissistic personality disorder, where it's actually a mental health disorder. And what is strange about it as well, that, you know, narcissists really sometimes don't know that they are. I am no expert on narcissism because a narcissist would have to be diagnosed by a psychotherapist. So if someone is a narcissist, there is really, the only cure can be talk therapy, but the person have to first accept that this is what I am, and then they have to be willing, you know, to get the help and get the talk therapy to get better. But this is not something that happens overnight, because this is something that would have been, you know, learned or taught from, you know, from childhood. So these are habits that would be so difficult, you know, to break. But some people may say, well, there is actually, you know, no going back, but I don't want to be, you know, the judge of that and say that. I guess through talk therapy and someone who maybe, I don't know if they can come to the realization that they are and they really, you know, they really need the help to actually get there. So that's what a narcissist is in a nutshell, someone who has excessive admiration for themselves. Some of the traits of a narcissist is they're very entitled. Narcissists are very arrogant. You know, they lack sympathy. They love power, and they are so intrigued with beauty and power and fame. Everything they do is really, so you may have a narcissist, for Diana, in the community who's helping. You see this person helping people doing things, and you think, well, that's a really good person. But really, they're not doing it because they really want to help someone. They're actually doing it because of the glory that they can get from it. So it's really all about a narcissist. So when you are in a relationship with a narcissist, you know, what they try to do is really play on your mind. So first, that's where they target. They target your mind. Because if they can get you to think, you know, less than you are, you know, and they can conquer your mind, then that's where the control comes in, because they're very arrogant. They love to control. They must have the the last word, etc. And there are different types of narcissists as well. Like you have the covert and the overt narcissists, those who are a little more outgoing. So you can actually see them, you hear them before you actually see them. So those, you know that they're there, they're very flamboyant. And then you have those as well who they come across as being very shy. So you would never assume that this person is a narcissist, but then those can be the dangerous ones as well, because they sort of work. They're very unassuming. You don't expect certain, certain things from them. So the whole narcissism is a whole, topic on itself. But when you have someone who has this disorder or who has narcissistic traits, it's very difficult, because it's not something that you get through genes. So you weren't born a narcissist. So narcissists were actually made. So you, Fredina, if you would have a child, you can actually rear a narcissist based on how. So it's actually people who have been either underloved or overloved as a child. Because if you're underloved as a child, what happened is you grow up with that mindset as, I have to rise to the top. I have to be better, which is not a bad thing, because that's the ultimate goal, that we have to try to better ourselves. But when you get to the extreme that you start thinking, I've gotten there and I did this by myself, and now I'm this, I have this, all of these things, these material things, and I did that on my own, and you start to esteem yourself higher than someone else. That's where part of the issue is.
You let me just pause for you here. In your book, you write, it's a condition not to be taken lightly. What I want to understand from you is that the way you speak of a narcissist, or you define it, how does it move from being the person who feels entitled, who is all about themselves, to becoming abusive, emotionally, physically, and otherwise?
Because that's a trait. And when you're a narcissist, what happens is you want to have the control. You want to have the last say. And for Diana, if you can't have what you want, then that's where the abuse come in, because I can't. First, as I said, they try to target your mind, and when they can't get that, and you're someone who just won't comply, because you have some people who are very strong and you can't break them, so they try to break your self-esteem. They try to bring you down, and when that's difficult for them to do, then the abuse will come in. Because if I can't get you to do what I want to by manipulation, then maybe I can get it through abuse. And the narcissist would want to do all of this hiding. So part of telling this story as well is to to expose them, in a sense, because narcissists don't like to be exposed. They would want people to know that, so in public, if you're with a narcissist, walking in public, people may think, oh, she has such a nice, husband, because maybe he's so caring, or such a nice partner, because that's what they put out to people to see. But behind closed doors, it's a totally, different issue altogether. Very manipulative. You have to see things the way that, that they want you to see it as well. There is a poem in here that said, you said.
Wait, let me just get that.
There is actually a poem that says, you said, and if I read that to you, then you can get an idea as to what a narcissist try to do, to your mind, to try to break your self-esteem as well.
Let's go.
So it says, you said, when I said I was leaving, you said, you will be nothing without me because I made you. I gave you my point of view, and you said, you think you know it all? You're so full of it. When I was confident in my own skin, you said, you think you are so beautiful. I have been with better looking women than you. I told you I bring just as much to the table, and you said, you are not and will never be my equal. I worked late and extended hours, and you said, you slave for the white man, you will never get ahead. I ventured into my own business, and you said, now you are making some money, it's getting to your head. These are the words I remember you said. So basically, you can never get anything right for a narcissist, because you should never be in the spotlight. They want to be in the spotlight all the time. They must be shining. You must be in that shadow. So even when you try to say to yourself, because they play on your mind a lot, and narcissists, they gaslight quite a bit. So they try to make you think that you're crazy. So things will happen right before you, and they would say, well, that's not how it happened. You're blowing things out of proportion. It didn't happen that way. And because they're so good at what they do, sometimes they make you think, well, did it really just happen? Even though you just experienced it. They have the ability sometimes to have you question your own self. And everything that you do is never good enough. You will never be my equal. You will never get ahead. But when you do get ahead, then they find something else to counteract that. So it's almost like you're never good enough, because you must always live in that shadow, because they want you to feel that you're inferior and they are superior to you, so they can control, constantly. So that's why it as you say, it moves from just being on the surface to becoming, abusive. Because when you can't get someone to do what you want to do, that is what you do. And one of the traits of a narcissist is to be physically abusive as well.
In terms of treatment otherwise, material things, taking you out, help us understand how that part comes into play.
So again, for a narcissist, it's about image. So you must look the part, the narcissist must look the part. So it's all about the material things that I can, give to you. So more value, and quite a bit of value is placed, on that. So it's how you look in public. And that's what they do. As I said, they hide quite a bit. So even in public too, let's say maybe you would have had an argument just last night. And of course, your business may be not for everyone, but they would be able to put on such a face that, people will really think that everything is, is okay. So we play it out for the public. So I want you to look good all the time, because you represent me, and because you represent me, you need to look a particular way all the time, because then you belong to me. And I want people to be, so in as much as a narcissist try to keep you in their shadow, they want other people to think highly of you at some point, because it only if it makes them, look good as well. So it's a lot. It's intense on how they, strategically, play with your mind, and that's what they try to do most of the times.
Before we went to we went across to Esther earlier on, we were speaking about the support you got from Gender Affairs. That's interesting, and give us a sense of the type of support that they gave, one. And secondly, it's important to understand how friends and family came through in this situation, because you would have friends of the narcissist and family of the narcissist, friends of Octavia and family of Octavia. Where was that middle ground? What happened along the journey? So,
two things. Gender Affairs first. Of course, Gender Affairs, they're there, and they're there to assist, women who are going through, especially women, with in the domestic violence area of things, in the home. So they're there for support. So when I hit the roadblock in terms of the law enforcement, the next step, I was directed over to Gender Affairs. And when I got to Gender Affairs, they gave me a chance to explain what I was going through, assess the situation, and then helped me to put an affidavit, together that I could have taken to the family court, and the family court would then decide if you get a restraining order based on your situation and how we deal with it. So Gender Affairs was very instrumental in doing that. They're very good with you with the process, the way they direct you as to to what to do, what steps to take. Just how caring they were, understanding what you're, going through without judgment. So that was very important, and that helped a lot, because perhaps if it wasn't for them, and if people don't know that help sort of exists, then when you hit a roadblock, because you always think something happens, let's go to law enforcement. You go there and people go back and keep going back and keep going back, and there's just no, no satisfaction, and some people just leave it alone, you know. And sometimes even with law enforcement too, sometimes they say they don't get involved too much in domestic violence because, you know, people keep going back and we don't know what to do. But then it's good when they can direct you where you can, you know, actually get help, even if it's, you know, through counseling, etc. So that's in terms of the gender affairs aspect of it. But I think I survived, you know, my ordeal because I had good support. You know, family was really, you know, there for me. So as I said, I have lots of, you know, sisters and so forth, and they all came through in, you know, in different ways. So I have the sister who was the, you know, the praying sister of quite a bit of prayer warriors. Esther's mom, you know, she's into, you know, church. She's a pastor herself. Esther is a pastor as well. She keep living out a lot of aspects of what she really is. So she too is a pastor. I have a sister who lives in.
I suspect she feels it's about you, so she doesn't want to.
So I have a sister who lives in Trinidad as well, who would call every day and say, "Sissy, let's pray. You know, you can overcome. You can do this." I have a very good friend who's a best friend as well, who is like, you know, a right hand who's with you every step of the way. What do you want to do? How can I help you? What is the next step? You know, so when you have a family, you know, like that who can, you know, come through for you, that helps you because you think that you're not alone. And that's one of the things I think and reasons why people give up, because then they think, I have no help and I have no one. But I would encourage people to get your tribe, you know, get people who you can trust. And you have to get some help, get someone who can help you, someone you can talk to. I was able to, you know, to talk to various family members, and I think that helped me, you know, helped to keep me sane. Because when you say, well, I'm going to give up, then someone is in your ear, like, you know, saying, well, think about it, because if you give up now, what's going to happen later, you know? Because, you know, so think about it. We're not going to pressure you into doing this, but you have to understand what you're doing. And whatever decision you make, we're going to be, you know, to be okay with it. But we want you to understand all aspects of, you know, of what we're doing. And then I had family members as well who, you know, you have those who maybe not as peaceful, who would want to do fire for fire. So you would have those who, I have a particular sister who, you know, when I would say certain things, so she would say, I am so tired of you. When are you going to stand up for yourself? What are you going to do? And she would say, deal with it before I get to deal with it. So you had, you know, all of that. So it was good support still, because you think, yes, I have that one person in my corner, you know, in my corner, who, you know, I feel like they can throw a punch for me. So you have that, and you have those who keep you grounded and who, you know, keep you sane, those who pray with you. And prayer was a very essential part of it as well, because although you have support and you have everybody with you who can tell you things, but when you are alone at nights, you're alone with your thoughts, for Diana. And that's why we have to talk about, you know, all this has to do with mental health as well, because that's where it stems from. When you have no help, you have no one to talk to, you feel alone, you internalize everything. And that's why we're saying break the silence. It's okay. Because when we think no one knows our business, 10 people already know what you're trying to hide. So you might as well feel comfortable telling someone to get your healing, because you internalize it thinking of what people are going to say. I don't want anybody to know. And then that's where the mental health issue comes in. You know, there's a very thin line between sanity and, you know, insanity. And if we don't take care of our mental health, and that's one of the effects of narcissism as well, because if you are affected by a narcissist and you don't get the necessary help, then you can develop mental health, you know, issues yourself. So that's how deep it goes, because you're alone doing this thing, trying to get your strength, have someone emotionally beating you down all the time. And the emotional and verbal, to me, is even worse than the physical, because I can slap you now, you're going to feel it now,
temporary
and
pain.
it's temporary pain, as you see. But when you do verbal and emotional, this is something that goes, you know, that goes deep. So that's why the narcissist is so strategic in trying to break you down, or they try to cut you down to size so they can manage and manipulate you the way that they would like.
While we have our captive audience, we still have to talk about how you survived. let us tell them what the plan is for Dominica in terms of the book.
Okay, so as I said, I'm here to, tell the story, and part of it is this here being on the radio station where we can, we can spread, so people can hear, people can listen. So what we're going to do this weekend, which is Saturday and Sunday, we're having a book signing where we're inviting persons to come. We have limited books and spots as well for attending. So persons who want to attend, you can get in touch with Fadina and you can RSVP with her so we know that you're actually coming. So what we will do, we will sit, have a conversation, talk about it. You will get the chance to ask all the questions you have on narcissism and what you think, and just little things that you would like to.
Some of the details that we are giving you all of tonight.
Right. So you will get the chance to do that, and then we will have the book signing. We'll have some refreshments and just have a nice gathering where you can be educated. You get a little, entertainment with it as well. And you get a copy of the book. So when you leave, you would have been entertained, you would have been educated, and you should leave feeling empowered, to make a difference even in your life if you're going through, or to help someone else who's going through, or be able to direct them, in the right way. So we are inviting people out. Get in touch with Fadina, RSVP. We will have the books on sale. The signing, the books only $50 EC dollars. So when you come with $50 EC dollars to purchase your copy of the book, so you can learn more and get more details. Because we can't spend all night here with you telling you all about it. So you have another opportunity while I'm here to hear about it again on Saturday and on Sunday. And that will be, we're having this book signing up at Goodwill at Rose Street, Rose Garden in Goodwill. So if you get in touch with Fadina, you can secure your spot, and then we will give you some more information.
Definitely. So we're not really doing ticket sales at the moment.
No.
But you express your interest,
right,
and we'll accommodate you. But you must express your interest because we have limited seats,
right,
at both events.
Yes.
Saturday and Sunday. We start from 5 and
5 to 7. Yes.
I just want to use the opportunity as well to say thanks to Josephine Gabriel and Company. They've agreed to give us some water, provide our water. For this, we're looking for a wine sponsor. So if anybody wants to do wine tasting,
yes,
or if you want to make a contribution in any way, we would welcome that. So yes, the wine folks out there, it would be a good place to have your wine.
And that would be their contribution as well,
yes,
to the whole cause, spreading the silence, so you breaking the silence, so you would contribute into, helping someone else with your contribution.
It is 9:39, the time in the studios here. We're just going to take a quick break, give Esther and Octavia an opportunity to just rejuvenate a bit. And we're coming right back. Our Facebook viewers, stick around with us. We're still here with you. Our radio listeners, we hope that you're still tuned in. We have a very huge radio audience, and we thank you guys. I meet you in Roseau all the time. Saying to me, Fadina, I listen and I miss you when you're not there. And this topic tonight is just an amazing opportunity. We have someone here saying, great job, Octavia. Thanks, Octavia, for sharing your story with us. You have person saying, I totally enjoyed the launching in Antigua. So there's somebody who was at the launching in Antigua there. Somebody just encouraging others to go out and support. Somebody saying, hello Troy, a relationship with God is needed. Someone says, very informative, giving hope and peace. Someone stating that this is a great show, and it just goes on and on. Someone is asking though, can the book be purchased on Amazon as well?
Yes.
Yes, it's available on Amazon. So we're coming right back. Keep it locked. This is the In the Spotlight radio show. For persons who may just be tuning in for whatever reason, it's now that you can join us. We have as our guest tonight Octavia Nicholas. She's the author of a book, Surviving a Narcissist. We also have Esther Thomas with us, Dr. Esther Thomas, with us, who actually published the book, And then you see here, Octavia says, my truth, my story of how a life once dominated by narcissism transitioned into a purpose awakening reality. And we are experiencing this purpose awakening reality right now, right here on the In the Spotlight radio show. How did you survive this, Octavia? By the way, even before you go further, there is a child that's part of this situation. I know you probably won't talk much about your daughter, and that's quite fine. How is she? How is everything from that point of view?
Well, she's doing okay. She's doing okay, but it's pretty hard for a child, being torn between two parents, two feuding parents, if you want to say so. And this is one of the things that, as parents, we have to be mindful of, because when we make decisions, in life, we always have a choice, and then we choose and we make decisions, and sometimes our decisions impact so many, other people, and not just us. And we all have to take accountability as well for the part we played in my whole ordeal. I have to take some form of accountability, because yes, you were going through, but you allowed it, to happen. Could be because you think things could get better. You were willing to try to make it work. You actually thought to yourself that, the individual can get better, so you hold on for various reasons. And because of that, you suffer, and you make that decision to be with someone, or in other areas, in life as well. But it doesn't just impact you; it impacts the people who are in your life. Even your family as well. It can impact your family a great deal, because when I went through my ordeal for Dinah, I took time to tell family members, because then you know how family can be, and it could affect them in such a way that family could have gotten aggressive, and it could get even, bigger than
my family would get aggressive.
Exactly.
I can tell you that much.
So it
Once
can
they
get
know.
much bigger than it's supposed to be. So it affects so many other people, and one of them is the children in the relationship. But my daughter is is doing well. And there are lots of other things, that I would not want to say along that, along that line. But everything
there is still some information in the book as it relates to her that the readers will find interesting as well.
But everything will come with a time. But then you ask how I survived, and again we will go back to the survival part being, the support. That's a huge thing. In order to survive, you need a good support system. So you need to find your tribe. It could be family, if you have best friends and people that you can trust, people, I can't just say people in authority, but people that you that you can trust, who can offer you, the help that you need. So you need a tribe. You need people who can persevere with you, if you want to say that. So that was part of my survival, just having, good support who is there all the time, because it was very intense. It became a lot, and I can tell you, if I did not have support, I would have crumbled and maybe just stay in a corner. I could have lost my my sanity as well, because it was a lot to process. When you're going through this and you're in your quiet time, what I was about to say earlier is that you can have family and friends, but you process a lot on your own. And that was where, for me, prayer became essential, because in the midnight hours when, I couldn't sleep, I would either get up, and that's how the poems, that's where they stemmed from, at nights when I couldn't sleep. And then what I did as well was prayed quite a bit. And I did quite a bit of affirmations as well. That's where the idea for the affirmations came from for the book as well. So in surviving, it's very good that you get good support. That is the only way that you can really survive. And giving yourself time, to heal, and not to blame yourself so much, although you take accountability for certain things. But being forgiving yourself as well. for what you go through and not being so hard on yourself. There is this.
Before you go to what you're going to read, as you said, almost taking self-accountability for this. In the book, there is an area that you write that you blame yourself to some extent, and it stems from the choice that you made. Clarify for us what you mean by that.
Well, I mentioned a little earlier on that, I believe sometimes when you make decisions, you see things sometimes. So people who get into relationships, you can see red flags sometimes from the onset. So we see that, but what we tend to do is, we turn a blind eye, or we say, well, this will eventually get better. And we sometimes tell ourselves, I can work on that, and I think I can get that person to come around. So we ignore the red flags that we see, and that's the first part of taking accountability. One of the questions that people would ask, well, did you know before? Of course, you always see things. You see signs. You see things, but then we hang on for a while. So I have to take accountability there and say, well, maybe you could have or should have left at a particular time when you see the red flags. But again, I need people to be patient with people, because again, people don't process things the right way. And another point I'm going to make as well is that when people are in situations like these, we don't force them out of it. So people tend to want to tell people, oh, get up and leave. Why are you still there? You need to go now. But someone can actually do that and not be ready on their own. And that's why sometimes people keep going back into the situations, because you have to sit, process in your mind, and then make up your mind for yourself and realize what I'm in is really not the right situation and I am ready to leave. That's why I said for Diana, I took time to tell my family, because I did not want them making a decision for me. I wanted to make that decision on my own, so I would be satisfied at the end of the day that I made that decision, I was ready, and not like, well, I listened to Esther, I'm not sure if what she told me was the right thing. I'm not sure if I should have left, and maybe if I had stayed and not listened to her, then things could have been different. But I took my time and I processed things on my own, and I decided that I was going to, to break free from that. So that's a part of it. We just have to be patient, very patient with people as well. And you asked how I survived, so I've explained a part of that, and I will tell you there is a part in the book as well, a poem that says I won, and I'm going to read that to you, and that will explain to you how I overcome, or what I think I gain, or what overcoming really means to me. Okay, so it says here, I won. You may ask how and what I won. What is winning and who is a winner? How do I know I've won? I won sanity. My mind is still sharp. I can clearly think. I won my peace and I feel free. Free to express my thoughts and be heard. I found myself all over again. I gained my laughter. I prayed to God for the day I would rise like a phoenix from the ashes, the day when all would be exposed, the day they would seek my forgiveness and love, the day I would win. That day surely came, and yes, I won. So, for Diana, for me, as we say, I'm still here telling this story, and that is a win, because I am still alive to do that. The fact that my mind is still sharp, I still have my sanity, I did not lose my sanity in all of this. This is a big win for me. I also got to the point when you read the book, because we're not going to say everything and have time for that, but there was a part when the narcissist, after all that we went through, eventually, because one of my prayers would be, I hope one day that he can actually come and try to seek, forgiveness and see where he's been. And came full circle where they wanted to say, well, I'm sorry, can we, mend things and get back, together. So for me, that was a win as well, in a sense, because that's something that would be very difficult. Of course, they always have some, ulterior motives, which I didn't want to stay around to find that out all over again. But winning, this is what winning, looks like. But my mind is still sharp. I still have a smile on my face. I am still healthy. All of those aspects of it. This is what winning looks like for me. And the most I can say is get your tribe and get people who can support you. Find it, even if it's just one person. And help is important. Therapy, you need someone to talk to. Talking all the time is important. That is very important. Letting it out, getting the help that you need, exposing, because narcissists like to hide a lot. They don't like to be exposed. So the more you talk, the more difficult it gets for them, because you're now exposing everything. And that's how abuse happens. When you hear people talk about abuse in the home, etc., they will tell you, nobody knows. We hide. Women put on these dark shades, and people ask, what happened? I walked in the wall. Just silly things. Silly reasons we give for the abuse. And what's happening, the abuser is actually gaining power when you do that, when you hide, because then nobody sees them as the monster that they are, because you're covering that for them. So we have to break the silence on narcissism and abuse. It is not okay. And women, be kind to other women. Understand what they're going through. It's never, I don't care what, someone, does, because we love to say, oh, well, she called that on herself. There is nothing that you should do as a grown-up that someone should think it's okay to put their hands on you, unless if maybe you do that to someone and they're defending, themselves. So if it's in defense because someone's beating up on you, yes, but we should not use abuse to get people to do what we want to do. If it's not working out, then it's best, we walk out or find ways to talk about it, get counseling. But this emotional, the verbal abuse, and verbal abuse is really, it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous, because words can really, harm you, because there is so much life and power in words and in the tongue. The Bible speaks about it too. So we have to be careful what we say to people, what we speak to them, even to ourselves as well, because it can become us. That's why some women get, they get trapped after a while, because when you're told the same thing over and over again, you're nothing, you're worthless, you're this, you're that, you're worthless. When you're told these things over and over and over again, and you start believing it, it can actually become, you. So that's why the verbal aspect of it is really so, so dangerous that I know.
Outside of the support group that you had, did you have to also go further and seek professional help from this situation?
Help. I have, it's something that I'm exploring. Lucky for me, I haven't, and I'm, doing pretty well. But I think it's because for me, I had a lot of talk therapy. You had people who were almost, in that field who you could talk to sometimes, and even with family. So it was like I was never holding it all in all the time. I did a lot of, talk therapy, even not through a professional, a psychotherapist or counselor, but I had, good support. But I would say that it's important to get that.
You spoke a few times along the program about the women who might be going through this and not able to speak to it, speak about it. Besides the book and the work that you're currently doing in terms of doing sessions and so, do you plan on taking this any step further, that you can be that source of contact or for anyone who might need that, or at least need to take the first step towards seeking help?
So this is all of this is a process. So the next thing that's really on the agenda to do is what I'm planning to do is do something almost like if you want to say, for lack of a better word, maybe like a talk show, where we can bring on the professionals, because I'm not a professional in that field. I'm not a psychotherapist. I am not in law enforcement. I'm not in the judicial system. So what we would try to do now is have another seminar where we can bring on the professional who can tell you, if you're in this situation, what do you do to get out? And if you're out of the situation, what do you do to keep your sanity? And just taking it from there, and eventually maybe trying to form some sort of support group with the right group of individuals to offer more help. So after, trying to go from maybe a few Caribbean islands, or even before that, after Dominica, the next thing might be in Antigua to have that seminar or that talk show where you invite people and you hear from the professionals, and even one or two other persons who can share their story, because narcissism doesn't just affect people in a relationship. So it's not unique to just relationships. We have narcissists who are parents. We have narcissists on the job, and we have men also who are affected by narcissism. So we don't just want to target, just women and in relationship, but just narcissism maybe on a whole, how it affects people. But the main thing as well, apart from narcissism, is really breaking the silence on domestic violence and abuse. That is the message. So if you're in an abusive relationship, how do you get out? When you're out, what do you do? Where do you get the help? So we would have maybe even like gender affairs to come and speak and say, this is what we're here for, this is what we do. Law enforcement, and say, well, this is really what needs to happen. So just giving people the information that they need, so when situations happen, they know where to go, they know the procedure, what works, what doesn't work, what should you not do, what should you do, because sometimes we take things into our own hands and we do things in the reverse. But if we have some guidance, then it will make things easier. So that's the next plan, really.
Powerful. It's 9:57. You wondered about the 2 hours, didn't you, Octavia? We're going to have to get ready to wrap things up. For you, Octavia, I want you to start thinking about the learnings from this, the lessons, and where do we go from here? What are you hoping to achieve with your visit to Dominica? Very, very important. And of course, we will repeat the activities as well that we're doing. I placed my number in the chat of the live on the In the Spotlight page. So go there. If you're listening via radio, you can just go there and message me and let me know, or send me a message via Messenger. I check it sometimes. But yeah, let's make this happen on the weekend. As we said, we have limited seats, so you really need to indicate your interest in advance. So I'm going to go to Esther first as we get ready to wrap up. And Esther, I'll tell you this, I'm already sold on your publishing company and your business. There are many persons, I'm sure, who are wondering, probably thinking, I told you about my book I plan on writing, and she said she's going to be touching base with Octavia. Said you need to touch base with her to make sure she starts at least. And there may be others, I remember some time ago a friend of mine had started writing a book, but she didn't know what direction to go in terms of a publishing company. So again, just tell us more about your company. How can we contact you if we need to? You can also go on the page and put your information in the comment section, so we can, persons can go there to make contact. You will give me your contact as well, because they always reach out to me. I know the publishing lady that was on your program with Octavia. How can I reach her? So yes. But let us talk as we wrap up and share your final words with us, Esther.
Definitely. Thank you for the opportunity. So the name of our publishing company is Inside and Inside Publishing. And so apart from just publishing, we also provide manuscript writing coaching, because we do understand that there's some persons who live very busy lives and on their own may not be able to commit to completing a manuscript. And so we host these programs where we have groups of 10, so there's support, there's community, it's intimate, and over a 10-month period, you're able to complete your manuscript, and as a result of that, you transition right into publishing. Outside of that, we also have the accelerated book writing workshop, because there's some persons who are just honestly clueless about the entire writing process, the entire publishing process, and that's how we break down the 5 aspects of writing to them, where we look at the message of the book, the business of the book, establishing your book blurb, identifying your audience, and then creating that roadmap to publishing. Our company is also a one-stop shop publishing company. So for example, whereas other publishing companies, you may have had to have someone edit the book before submitting it to them, you'd have to pay a graphic designer to design the cover before sending everything to them, and so there's just multiple vendors included, multiple fees. With our company, we provide that one-stop service, so that after the book publishing consultation, we are the ones doing the heavy lifting for you. We will, of course, interact with you on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, providing you with updates and everything that we ought to do in terms of the project plan schedule. But we get all the heavy lifting done and walk through the entire process with you, because it can be nerve-wracking, especially if it's your first time, even when it's the second and the third time, for some persons. And so we really try to give our clients the commitment and the support that they need. To learn more about us and who we are, the services that we provide, you can go to our website. That's estherjthomas.com. So that's EstherJThomas.com, and you can learn more about us. And if you're interested in publishing, you can also book a free publishing consultation via our website. We also have ongoing promotions. Once you head over to the website, you'll be able to see all of that information there.
Any words for your aunt as we wrap up?
Definitely. I've said it to her on numerous occasions, but it doesn't hurt to say it again. And also to those in Radio Land and social media, I just want you to know that I'm very proud. Very proud. I know you're not going to cry. I'm very, very proud of you. I'm proud that you have taken this step, not just for yourself, but for the community at large, for the globe at large. And there are many persons, I know, who are either watching currently, listening currently, or will listen or watch in the future and say, you know what, this woman is strong. And what you have done is not just to give hope to our family members or young people, not just to give hope to persons in the Caribbean, but to the globe at large. You're saying to them, hey, whatever on the inside of you, whatever is stopping you, understand that you can conquer it. It's not the end. And so not just telling your story, but teaching people how to navigate uncertainty, teaching people how to navigate hurt, and understanding that true healing, true wholeness does exist is truly commendable. And I salute you for that.
Oh. She's not going to make you cry, right? Octavia, thank you for that, Esther. And I just really would like you to know it was a pleasure. I mean, the energy you brought tonight is phenomenal. And I mean, Octavia, is good to have you as part of her family and in her life. Yes.
I'm privileged to be a part of her family. It was a pleasure being here this evening.
Octavia, we come to you, my dear.
Yes, so
what an evening it has been. And I really admire your strength. You've not shed a tear during the course of the program.
We're trying hard.
And we're not going to. Well, it's better at the end than, in between. But you really are a phenomenal woman of strength. Yeah. And I thank you and appreciate you for first writing this book, deciding to publish this book, and sharing your story with us, but coming here again this evening and sharing with us so openly. We would have loved to share a lot more, but obviously, we want persons to get the book. How do you feel now? How are you feeling?
I feel good. I really feel good, to be honest. A little emotional, but I'm really feeling good about this, just to know that I'm sharing and people are out there listening. Just to have my niece with me as well, who's such a great support. And when we talk about getting your tribe, that's what you need. You know, people who can stand with you, who can be genuine with you, who can be proud of you, and actually help you through, you know, your process as well. So she doesn't even know how much it means to have.
When you mentioned that so many times to me, and my niece will be coming with me, and she's the publisher.
It means quite a lot. But one of the taglines that I, you know, have been using, and maybe people who are on here who've heard me before may know that I say that no one is coming to save you but yourself. And this is something that we really need to understand. You will have to effect change in your life. No one can do it for you. People can advise you as much as, you know, they can. People can try to influence you as much as they can. But unless you're ready, unless you put in the work, unless you're willing to make that change, it will not happen. So you have to be, so the message I want to leave out there, you know, to the people who are going through, to the women who are out of it, you know, but still struggling, you know, you have to do it for yourself. You have to fight for your own sanity. You have to fight for your sanity. And I can't fight for it for you. I can offer the support, and that's why we're here now telling you about this, to offer a bit of hope and light. But you have to do your work on your own. You have to want to seek help. You have to want to get out of your, you know, of your situation. So just remember that I am here to try to save you, in a sense, by sharing with you, but I can't do it for you. No one can do it for you but yourself. And that's what we're I'm here to encourage, you know, folks to do. And just for women, just know that, you know, the power that lies within, how important it is for women, you know, to be a part of society. It was designed that way. God created the man and the woman. So we have our part to play as well. So we need to walk in our power and our strength. Know your worth. You know, try to build your self-esteem. Get into groups and people, you know, have people around you that can, you know, motivate you and take you to the, you know, to the next level. Try not to remain in that, you know, same position with the same people who will bring you down or keep you in, you know, in that rut that you're in. You know, try to find your way, you know, find your way out, and you can only do it for yourself. And that's the first step, because that's the first step you have to take, realizing what you're in and how you're actually gonna get out of it. And remember, we're still doing the book signing. You still have an opportunity to come where you can ask questions. For someone who just maybe want to have a little personal, you know, conversation. I have met one or two persons here who might be able to, you know, to guide you to where you can, you know, get help, or who would go the extra mile to get the information that, you know, that you need here to make that move, to walk out boldly, and to break that silence on narcissism, break the silence on domestic violence and abuse. Narcissism is maybe a wide, you know, section of people may not know what it is, but the focus is on domestic violence and on abuse. We all know what that is. If we've not experienced it, we have family members or friends who've gone through. So we now need to, you know, try to break the silence and help someone else. And be patient with each other. Be loving to each other. You know, help someone. Don't talk someone down into their situation. You never know, because people love to see, why can't she leave? Why isn't she leaving? Oh, let her stay in that situation, and maybe she loved the blow, maybe she loved the licks, you know, whatever. But it's not as easy as you think to just get up, and it's not as easy as saying, I'm leaving today, and walk away, especially when someone has tried to captivate your mind, you know, break down your self-esteem. There are women out there who have no one to turn to for that. And they think that that abuser is the only thing that they have, so they try to hold on to that. So we're saying, you know, be patient with people, listen to them, you know, try to be comforting and give them their time to make the decision. Let's just hope that they make that decision, you know, in time. So that's what I have to leave with my listening audience.
Melina Johnson.
That's our sister.
She said she tuned in, you know, she was tuned into the program. Again, my number, if you're on the live, you can go there. I put it in there so you can contact me. If you're listening via radio and you would like to make contact, you can do that. A friend just messaged me from the US indicating to me that she wants a signed copy and she'll get it when she comes home for the independent season. So I have to get her signed copy and reserve her copy for her. And this person is somebody who's really good to me. So it's on me, okay? I will get you this as a gift to you. All right, my dear? Yes. So, ladies, oh my goodness, this was really an enlightening session. And again, Octavia, I just like your niece, I want to see how proud I am of you.
Thank you.
And you're a new friend, a new connection I've made. And I'm really so happy for that connection, And I look forward, to us keeping in touch and keeping in contact, letting me know what you're doing, in terms of promoting this and probably taking this even further. And all of that good stuff. To the viewers, we thank you. To the listeners, we thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you benefited in some way or the other from this engagement here this evening. And we hope that those of you who are going through this, that you'll be able to reach out. Come. Somebody called me today and said my situation I've been going through, and they broke through it. They said that, and after we're done, I'll give you a little hint. The person broke through. And they said, I need to be there on the weekend to be a part of
doing its work, and that's what we want.
Definitely. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the program tonight. I know I indicated last week that Peram was supposed to be our next guest, but Peram had to, he's not even available for next week, so we'll be doing something else next week. We already know what we're doing next week. It has to do with the observance of the month of the elderly. So we'll have a couple of folks here next week to talk about that. Ophelia Olivache Marie, if you tuned in, good evening to you, my dear Lady O, and to everyone who just tuned in and continue to support us. We thank you so much. Octavia, thank you. Looking forward to a wonderful weekend of exploring, engaging, learning some more. And, you really have to get the book and read it. That is a wrap for us tonight on the In the Spotlight radio show. God willing, we will be back next week. Until then, keep it locked.
In the Spotlight.